The arrest of this British oil tanker by Iran's Revolutionary Guard in the Strait of Hormuz on Friday is reigniting fears of a major disruption in global oil supplies. Tehran says the vessel's been detained at Bandar Abbas port for violating maritime laws.
The investigation depends on the cooperation of the crew members on the vessel and our access to the evidence required for us to look into the matter. We will make every effort to gather all the information as soon as possible.
British officials deny Tehran's accusations and are demanding the immediate release of the vessel and its crew.
Under international law, Iran had no right to obstruct the ship's passage, let alone board her. It was therefore an act of state piracy.
Tensions between the two countries have been rising since the arrest of an Iranian oil tanker in the Strait of Gibraltar by the British Navy earlier this month. Last week, Gibraltar's top court extended the ship's detention by a month. Iranian officials are now linking the release of the British vessel to that of their own ship.
When the British stop an Iranian ship and show hostile behavior, they shouldn't expect us to show tolerance. When you legally seize a ship in the Strait of Gibraltar, we don't deem it necessary to show tolerance.
Britain's increasing its military presence in the region to protect its vessels and crews, but it says these warships won't join a US-led blockade of Iranian vessels. Other European countries are also calling for talks to resolve the crisis.
We don't want to join the United States strategy of maximum pressure. We do not want any further escalation, but we must recognize that there are incidents that need to be dealt with. We have agreed that Germany, France, and Great Britain will coordinate very, very closely on this issue.
The vessel's detention spooked investors. Brent crude prices rose as much as 1% on Monday before giving up some of those gains. That's after Libya reported it's resuming oil production at the Al Sharara oil field that had been shut down for 3 days following a sabotage attack. Analysts say they don't expect a major disruption to oil supplies passing through the Gulf.
The tanker crisis has the potential to become a major crisis, but I don't think it will come to the extreme because none of the sides would win.
But the current crisis began after the US pulled out of the 2015 Iran nuclear deal and slapped sanctions on Tehran. And unless Washington and Tehran can dial down tensions, global oil supplies could remain in choppy waters. Mobin Nasir, TRT World.
Well, let's get more on the story now with Captain Ranjith Raja, who joins us from Dubai. He's a senior analyst at the research firm Refinitiv, focusing on oil markets in the Middle East and North Africa. Welcome to Money Talks, Ranjith. Now, we've seen oil prices rise modestly in the wake of the latest tensions in the Persian Gulf, but why aren't we seeing a bigger spike in oil prices?
The major reason is because right now the oil market is more of a demand-driven market than the supply side of the equation. So we are already seeing the market is actually oversupplied in terms of the oils from the supply regions. But from the demand perspective, the fundamentals haven't changed drastically. And that's primarily the main reason why we are not seeing a huge uptick in the prices.
Interesting. Now, we know the Strait of Hormuz is a crucial oil shipping lane through which about a fifth of the world's oil supplies flow through. Do you expect any sort of significant disruption to oil supplies as these tensions escalate?
Yes, it is one of the most strategic waterways in the world. We are talking about almost 6,000 ships passing over in the first half of the year alone. Just then, that's purely in terms of the oil and the LNG tankers part of it. In terms of the disruption, following the recent incidents and the recent escalations in the tensions, I think the maritime industry has generally perceived a higher security threat in the region. But as of now, it doesn't form any kind of a disruption to the maritime traffic in itself.
Okay, now Iran says the British tanker that it seized was violating maritime rules. The UK has flatly denied this claim. Now, as a former merchant Navy officer yourself, you obviously served with a number of oil tanker fleets. How do you think this will end?
So first of all, for Iran to prove any kind of violation has been done to the international convention, the agency that needs to be enforcing, or the agency that needs to be inspecting this, is the port state control of the port in which the ship actually calls. But in this particular case, from the vessel tracking data that we have seen at Refinitiv, it shows the vessel has not deviated from its passage out of the Strait of Hormuz, which in itself is a traffic separation scheme. And by all means, it has a right of free passage. So the ship has been mandatorily made to deviate from its course and taken into the Iranian waters in the first place, which means the ship did not enter into official Iranian waters in order for the vessel to be taken inside for any further inspections.
Interesting. So do you think that this is perhaps just a tit-for-tat move after UK officials seized that Iranian tanker near Gibraltar?
Well, this is not the first incident where it has been reported of the petrol boats coming and forming out, disrupting the maritime traffic there. Even prior to this, we had a couple of the British tankers that were, while trying to pass the Strait of Hormuz, were narrowed or were approached by the petrol boats. But luckily, the British naval vessel was there prior to this in order to provide the escort and provide clearance in the strait. But in this particular case, it has been reported that the naval vessel was at least an hour away, and which essentially resulted in no kind of a backup for this particular vessel.
Okay, Captain Ranjith Raja, we'll have to leave it there, but it was lovely to get your thoughts. Thank you.